Bryan, thank you very much for taking your time and the drive here.
Yeah.
I mean, you were flying, I was driving, coming both to Düsseldorf, meeting here close to the airport, to make it to a personal conversation about camLine and the innovation that camLine provides to the battery and e-mobility industry. I'm very curious to find out what you have to offer and to talk about the innovation of camLine and, as I learned, Elisa or Elisa?
Elisa.
Because
Yeah.
camLine was acquired by Elisa recently, right?
Like
Or
more than 4 years now.
4 years, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Good. So before we jump into the discussion on Elisa, camLine, and digitalization in battery manufacturing and also materials, as you told me up front, I want to understand, how did you find into the field of digitalization and also with relation to batteries and the e-mobility industry? Because I mean, as a digital company, you have many opportunities, right? You can, as I learned, go into semiconductors, for example, or the medical industry. But now you're also bringing in your experience into the battery industry, and I want to understand why and how.
Yeah. Well, thanks. First of all, thanks, Simon, for inviting me here.
Yeah.
From technology point of view, it's very data-driven manufacturing perspective. We have a lot of experience in semiconductors as well as high-tech manufacturing in many areas of interest. So one of them would be battery, and electronics runs on electricity. So definitely manufacturing of batteries is kind of challenging as well as to understand, from mixing process to rollers and finally discrete formations of every single battery cell. That's require a lot of traceabilities. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where our expertise are coming from. So we have been in the field of automation for the last 30 years, especially bringing a lot of know-how from automation, tool integrations, collecting data, linking all the sensors data with context.
Yeah. Are you
that's
talking about
critical.
automation in the sense of manufacturing, or
Yes,
okay?
manufacturing. So we have integrations with robotics, integrating to manufacturing lines to increase the throughputs. But it's also critical to link it with contextual information that you can do analytics, that you can do traceabilities with it. So definitely with battery manufacturing now, the more advanced that you compact it into a single battery cells, there are more and more units that combines together to produce a more higher capacity battery. And this brings on the next level of challenge, how you do traceability, how you find back where is the fault or defectivities is coming from, right? So as manufacturing goes more and more high volume, that's also become more crucial to find out where are the batches of finished good or the battery itself that cause, let's say, defects or even the worst case, burn out batteries.
Yes.
That's what.
So you want to understand, and if I understand you correctly, you want to cover the whole value chain from the material all the way to the application, correct?
Well, yeah, for camLine itself, we want to cover from the materials, mixing it all the way to roll process until the battery formations. So this is where camLine play a bigger roles of manufacturing automations as traceability.
And if you're saying you're covering, you're not saying that you're manufacturing this, but you're supervising it, you're overseeing the process with the means of your tools, your digital tools.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit more technically, what does camLine do and how do you bring value to this industry?
So at camLine itself, we are more providing a MOM solutions, manufacturing of operation management.
Yeah, can you define that term really quick? Because
Yeah,
everyone should, it's a new term, right? I think before that we had manufacturing execution systems, and now this term of MOM, manufacturing, just elaborate again.
Manufacturing execution system is more focusing on executing it during the running of a production order.
Yes.
But MOM is covering more from the side of incoming materials to the warehouse, issuing the materials, go down to the line, having all the way running until the finished goods going back to the warehouse.
Yes.
And tracking that even for deliveries to the customers. So you are managing the entire scope of material coming in until the materials that is going out to the let's say to the customers or to the next chain of manufacturing. So that's the entire scope of MOM systems. So camLine provides more deepers into connecting the warehouses that is receiving the materials into the manufacturing floors that is running the productions with the automation, let's say integrated tools, collecting
Yes.
the data, reading all the sensors, commanding the equipment how to run, downloading the recipe where the equipment can process accordingly, and then finally, assembles into battery pack that we can manage it to an inventorized warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
and then from the warehouse deliver it to the customers, or even creating the battery passport, the digital certificates of the battery itself,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can have a full traceability of the batteries. Yeah.
Okay. And that holds until the battery cell is manufactured.
Yes.
How about so that's the whole development to manufacturing
Mhm.
process. How about then tracing this? Also, I'm thinking about the battery passport, for example, and all the implications of that, of the application later on.
Mhm.
Do you provide a traceability there as well? So is this something you have on the radar as well, or are you saying
Mhm.
no? We take or we keep the focus on the development and production process. So what is your focus there?
So today we're still focusing on the manufacturing, how to collect data, automate them, trace them within the manufacturing
Mm.
environments. But to my point of view, the bigger vision is basically the battery passport also carry on the life cycles of the usage in the field,
Mm.
so that you know exactly how many times it has been charged, how long they took the charge, how much charge it is holding.
Yes.
And further on, with this data that you can collect from the field, you can use it for further improvements in your manufacturing. So this is some unique propositions that we can do now. For
Mm-hmm.
example, camLines, especially from simulation point of view, using AIs to drive the simulations for material preparations. What kind of composite of materials to create a better battery,
Mm.
that you have a better battery lives, you have better life cycles with it, and the fastest charge time, right?
Mm.
So with this, we also work with customers to develop such a simulation tools that you can experiment different combinations of material composites to
Mm-hmm.
create what you needed in manufacturing to make the battery life
Mm.
better, right?
Yeah.
So with the use in field, especially, that you can collect this data, put into, let's say, the passports, not just the birth of the battery, but also the life cycles of usage.
Yes.
And then feeding it back to the simulation will be a great values to
Mm.
understand how the actual usage in the field. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're offering your experience and services right now to some young companies in the
Mm.
battery field, right?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about them?
Yeah, we actually offer let's say, the AI driven simulation solutions for Tion,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the
So Berlin
abilities.
company from Germany.
Yes, yes,
Mm.
that's right. So they have the abilities to experiment different composites of materials to create the next generation of batteries, and then you do it all with the online simulations without having a real labs or production lines to test it.
Mm-hmm.
Because on one hand side, when you experiment a new material composite, you have to produce it and experiments with it, and finally form it into a battery that you can test it. So now
Yes.
you can virtually do everything with the AI driven simulations, that you don't have to do it physically.
But
And
that requires that you have a model,
yes,
that
that's
you have built up knowledge on some type of
train up
factual
machine.
information, correct?
Yeah, which, so most of the manufacturers that is doing the labs, they have some set of data they
Mm-hmm.
can train up our machine learning models and to predict the next combinations of materials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we base on, having the abilities to learn from the historical data
Mm.
and capture those data into
Mm.
machine learning. Yeah.
So is it in your current interest to expand the set of companies that you have on expanding the data set?
Yeah, we actually working on this with several potential new customers so that they can upload more of their data
Yeah.
and train up their own AI
Mm.
simulations by each company, right? Rather than share it among the rest, but
Mm-hmm.
it's actually individually trained out for their own data sets and their own research field. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. So if we look back, you mentioned that in the introduction that camLine has quite an extensive experience over spending over 30 years and
Yes.
in various industries. I think you mentioned automotive. You
Mhm.
mentioned also semiconductors. I would like to ask you, the battery industry is a very young industry with not much experience. If we look at Asia, of course, there's more experience. But in Germany and Europe, we're still building up this relatively
Yeah.
new industry.
Mhm.
So my question to you is, what knowledge, what wisdom can we infer from those other industries like the semiconductor or automotive industry, where you would say, hey, this was a very complex process in the, for example, semiconductors. I would suggest that we tackle this problem that we have here in battery industry, for example, like cycle life, in this manner. So are there some lessons learned that or some analogies you can draw between those different industries with your extensive experience?
I would say first of all is actually data is the powerful tools to analyze your or to even improve your productions, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing is that the semiconductor industry already did all the automations and collecting the data. So with the data that's automated and collected from the processes,
Mm.
definitely it's a gold mine to really dig into and then figuring out what is the characteristics that you can use it to let's say improve and yield better.
Mm.
So today's even though battery is pretty much built in Asia,
Mm.
but there's a lot of material science that's coming in now that
Mm.
helps the next generation of battery. Where I would say we should pick up this data automation capability with collections
Mm-hmm.
and then analyze those data to improve the battery usage life with different material composite rather than like lithiums, which is now the most common one. Maybe there's a new discovery that Europe can pioneer and develop further with the new generations of batteries and with the
Mm.
sustainable manufacturing capabilities down here. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what the value you provide on the battery development side,
Yeah. So
right?
automating, collecting the data,
Mm.
integrating with context, and then helps manufacturers to understand, what is behind the manufacturing process,
Mm.
where there are improvements and better life cycles. Yeah.
So in short, you're decreasing the number of iterations and also the extent, so the testing time that it requires to gather the knowledge. I'm not saying the information, but the knowledge until you can make a decision, right?
Or let's
So
say
so
making decisions in between the manufacturing before it get deteriorated
mhm.
until formations, right? So the earlier that you can detect
So now you're
defects,
talking about the manufacturing process, right?
yeah.
I was talking still about material
Hmm.
innovation. So let's put up the example. You have a new battery material, let's say a cathode material,
Hmm.
and you want to know if this is better in performance in terms of cycle life. Okay, let's say some high nickel cathode, and now you have the option as a researcher to do the testing. You build coin cells and then you test them through and evaluate after this and this many cycles. And of course, you have to wait. You can predict, okay, this will likely exceed a couple of thousand cycles, whatever.
Yeah.
And then now you're coming in and saying, wait, you only have to cycle, let's say, 10 or 100 cycles until we can tell you already with a very high statistical significance that this cell will be good or bad.
Yeah, this is
That's
basically
your
our
job, right?
simulations, yeah, of the AI-driven simulation
Yeah.
approach, where you can have a, let's say, material composite that you can have a shorter test cycles,
Mm.
and at the end you can predict how well it is with the different composite that
Yeah.
you apply. Yeah,
And now you're taking this approach and apply it also to the production line, correct?
yeah,
So
for the
especially
aging
formation and aging.
tests, yeah, for the aging test especially. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to do the full cycle test of maybe 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it with a cycle test of one charge up, a couple of charge up and discharge. Then
Okay.
you can predict whether the batch of manufacturing is good or bad, and or you need more longer aging tests. You
Yes.
don't need the full aging test, but you can just
Mm-hmm.
sample it. Yeah,
Mm.
in a way like a couple of charge.
Based on the trained data set.
Yeah, based on the data that is collected
Yeah.
and then historically compared to the rest of the batches, and
Mm.
you can figure out whether the batch itself is good or not. Yeah.
So how about disruptive technologies then? If you train with a given data set, then how far can you predict? Let's say on a very novel chemistry, have you experienced that it's possible to really predict uncommon chemistries and their behavior, or would you say this is rather an optimization within the given material portfolio?
Yeah, you have to start with experiments with a given set of
Mm.
portfolio. You can't do it with the wild materials that you add in and then make the predictions for. So
Yes.
all this is basically based on machine learning.
Mm.
It's not just material science only.
Mm.
So you have to have the historical data to let's say train the models and then apply it to the next combination. But it has a boundary,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah,
it's
that's what I mean. Yes.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it cannot go out of that boundary itself.
Okay. Okay. Good. So what is if we look at the scope of your further development? So you're saying you're opting or looking for partners that are interested in participating in your testing and further development to train the models and also become a customer potentially?
Yeah, that's right. Besides Tions, we also work with few others to bring into the field of simulations,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we are, welcoming more and more battery researchers and developers to come into the arena to try out these simulations. And it's online with the clouds. It's pretty much a very straightforward setup. Just upload the data and then you get a simulation result
Okay,
immediately. Yeah.
sounds good. So let's hover or take a step back and hover over the bigger picture. I mean, you mentioned in the beginning that camLine is now part of
Elisa.
ELISA Industric, right?
Elisa Industry.
In ELISA Industric, and you mentioned some interesting thoughts on the application of batteries and their importance, and about virtual batteries or virtual
Virtual
battery
power
plants.
plants. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to know a little bit more how the camLine puzzle piece now fits into the bigger picture, and
Yeah.
how ELISA Industric fits into the bigger picture of
Mhm.
the energy economy.
So just a bit more about Elisa. So Elisa
Mm-hmm.
actually it's a motherships of Elisa Industric.
Mm-hmm.
So Elisa itself is a telco players in Finland, where you have operating telcos for the entire Finnish market and Estonia. So one of the experiments that we started up with virtual power plant was to take all the batteries in every base stations of the telco and base stations, right? So thinking of it is that every single base station has its own batteries, and if you can combine those batteries, become a virtual power plants, which means that when the market let's say when the sun is shining, when the wind is blowing, you can charge it to the battery, and then when
Course.
the grid itself need more powers, you can really sell the batteries that is coming from all these small little batteries into the grids and sell it back to the national grid consumptions. So we have a AI driven modeling that manage all this power when it has to be charged from the solar cells,
Yes.
when it has to be discharged into the grid itself, right? So this save a lot of energy usage within the telco networks, but also
Okay.
providing it back to the national grids itself. So by looking at this, Elisa Industries, we are providing such a management solutions for distributed energy systems. And we also extend that to the consumer markets. At this moment is in Finland, but the majority now is coming from telcos. We are expanding globally across
So
different
what does it
telco.
mean for consumers? I mean, they are not owning telecommunication
Yeah,
towers or
so they kind of have their own rooftop solar
okay,
panels
yeah.
as well as the battery pack at their home. So there's a smart grid, and with the smart meters now, that you can exchange actually sell back the
Okay,
powers to the
okay.
grid, and then we provide
So
the
include them on a software level, so they can participate in your energy trading network.
yeah,
Then,
that's right.
okay, gotcha. Interesting. So why I was raising this point, because I find it very interesting that so many different companies and people with different backgrounds are entering this industry, and that it doesn't really matter where you come from, but just to understand how you can deliver value, right? It's not really important if you know batteries by heart before, but if you see like where you can find your puzzle piece in bringing us forward, I think that's very valuable. And this is what you showed me, that camLine and Elisa on the trajectory as a telecommunication company who owns a digitalization software expert or digitalization. How would you describe camLine,
Yeah.
by the way? It's difficult because
Yeah, digitalizations of manufacturing process, right?
mm,
So controlling and yeah, leveraging automations to make it better and sustainable manufacturing, right?
yes,
That that's
yes,
what we do at camLine. Now,
mm,
together with Elisa, we can even have a bigger goal to create a more sustainable ecosystems within all, from chip makings, from sensors to all the ways to electronic
mm,
manufacturing, car makers to battery operators to even telcos. So
yes,
it's kind of a big industry coverage that we have here
mm,
to make our contributions to our societies. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. If I look at Mircho's work, then I'm curious because I see him very active in Germany and Europe, bringing camLine into the field of battery innovation.
Mhm.
So now I want to understand, how do you see the scope of camLine globally and Europe, and the work that he does and the people around him for camLine? Where do you see camLine in, let's say, 1, 2, or 5 years?
Mhm. Well, in short terms, definitely the innovations that we have with the AI-driven simulations approach, the
Mm,
next 1, 2 years, it will be a big contributions to all the R&Ds within Europe.
mm,
So Europe's still catching up with the battery manufacturing. So with the research that is actively going on, that's definitely one of the areas that we are interested to expand more and
yeah,
develop further with the 1, 2 years. So a bit longer terms, 3 to 5 years, we are seeing now probably Europe will be able to expand to high volume manufacturing
okay,
and get into the real battery
mm,
making process. And definitely to be self resilience in this market means that you have your own supply chain ecosystems
hmm,
around. Yeah, especially within Europe, that you don't have to, yeah, get it from another regions. Yeah, to
yeah,
develop it further in
okay.
Europe. Yeah.
So Europe is focus,
Yeah,
certainly.
it's certainly is our main focus within Europe itself.
Mm,
Well, let's say traditional high volume manufacturers in Asian regions,
mm,
they are really focused on their current technology stack here.
mm.
So I still think that we have a lot of room to grow here within Europe to research and develop.
Ah,
So
okay,
this has been the heart of high tech manufacturing in Europe. Yeah.
okay, I understand. Yeah, then I'm looking forward. Mitch Kosteski and
Mm.
all you guys at camLine are coming up within the next years. So I would like to have a little look at the future, not just from the camLine perspective, but also with you together as an expert in your field. So two questions, and I asked them to everyone.
Mhm.
The first one is, what are the biggest challenges that are holding us back here in Europe to build the battery ecosystem?
I think the regulations and compliances is really tough here.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, this is also the aspect to be as a key factor to drive differentiations, right?
Okay, okay.
So, but regulations and compliances is still what we
So
face the most challenge in Europe.
okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
But then the question is: the battery pass a challenge or a potential? Or
Yeah, it is potentials to
to
establish.
differentiate, right?
Yeah, especially with the strong climate change that we
Mm.
have faced now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even more importance to develop such a battery capacities and capabilities within Europe. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
So the potential. What is the biggest potential?
I would see it as the growth of the, especially with home automations as well as the whole industry that depending on grids now.
Yeah.
So that will be a very big potential for us to create that market
Okay.
that just consumed by Europe itself. Yeah.
Mm.
So and then being more resilient towards self-sustainable. Yeah.
So would you summarize this point as democratization of an energy economy?
I would say freedom of energy economy.
Okay. Okay.
So freedom means that you can trade it,
As a
from
prosumer, right?
consumer as a consumer, you can trade it out
Mm,
as consumers that you use it from the grids. You have a freedom to choose.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
really the ultimate game, right? So that you are kind of off the grid as when you like it,
Yes.
Just like your e-mobility
I mean,
van
this
here.
is, we're sitting here in the front of Porsche, right? At the charging station. The vehicle is charging right now, and this is a stop, and then everything is battery powered here, right?
Yeah, I mean, the big words of mobility means freedom as well. So
Yeah.
battery really makes a lot of impacts for mobilities.
Yes.
So yeah, I love to be cableless rather than attached to the cables always. So that's freedom is something that we should enjoy, and we should take it as serious as possible to develop the futures with it. Yeah.
And it would be great if we have an industry here which can deliver this technology.
Yes.
This is the vision that I'm after. This is the vision that drives me, and the mission that I'm on now, to connect the stakeholders that can deliver competences to bring us there. Right?
Yes,
to build
definitely.
this European battery ecosystem. That's really my vision, and I hope we can together strive towards this bigger picture.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you, Simon.